up? It's your girl Star, and this is Conversations Over Smoke, episode 8. And the smoke topic is recovering from your childhood. Let's get into it. Growing up, my mother was on drugs, and it was no secret. We were very aware that that was our circumstances, my brother and I. Without having someone consistently stable in the home, we were on our own a lot of times, and a lot of times we weren't on our own. It was just depending on the circumstances of the situation. Anyway, eventually, I myself ended up going to foster care, and I stayed in foster care for about 2 years, and then that was 2 years too long because they were ready to send me to another foster care, and they found a family member that was able to take me and adopt me. My aunt adopted me when I was almost close to being 11 or 12, I want to say. I'm really not sure. I think it was like 95, 96. And you would think someone coming from that type of environment, it would have been something fruitful. It would have been something fruitful if I did not feel like I didn't need to be saved from anyone. I went to a lot of different schools. And I stayed with a lot of different people. If I lived with neighbors I didn't know. If I wasn't living with a neighbor, well, I shouldn't say I didn't know them, but I knew they were my neighbors, and I knew that my mom knew them. But I've lived with neighbors. I've lived with my father a couple of times, and those were nice escapes for the time being. But somehow it would always get messed up, and I would have to go back home, and it would be like, well, I'm back with my mom. At least I know she's okay. You know, that was the abandoned little girl in me, just wanting to make sure that my mom was okay. I was in a situation where I've always had to fight. I've had to fight for everything, and my behavior showed that I had to fight, which made it very hard for people to care for me. I was extremely nice to my social workers. I'm not quite sure why that was, but when it came to like teachers and anybody that had some type of authority, I would always act out. I literally was a devil in my foster home. I would fight her and her husband. I would knock over anything that was available for me to knock over. Like one time I remember just walking down her hall, and for no particular reason, I was just knocking pictures off of her wall, just doop, doop, and if she confronted me, it was all hands on deck. And this is an adult woman who had just let me come and live in her home. I fought teachers. I fought anyone who decided that, they wanted to fight, and it was horrible. I had no idea that I was dealing with inside trauma. I felt like I was a friendly person, but looking back now, I was very guarded and very protective over myself. And I think I did what I had to do to make sure that I was protected, and it really didn't matter what adult I had in my life that said that I was going to protect you. That didn't matter. I needed to protect myself. My foster mother was very kind to me. Regardless of what I did to her, she was very kind. And transitioning over to my aunt, who I always known, who I was always glued to my aunt and her children. They were my siblings. They had always been my siblings, because if I was not with my mother, I was with her. And that's really when I said to myself, this is going to be a good thing. And I had every intention on feeling like that was going to be a good thing. And then I got into the home, and it was structures, it was boundaries I couldn't cross, it was things that I couldn't do. In my opinion, when I was younger, it was a very strict household, and strict was something that I was not used to, and it just I'm thankful for it today, because I know how to raise my daughter, and I know how to set boundaries and things like that. But it was rough for me. I fell into depression, and I didn't know what depression was. I was guarded a lot, and I didn't know what being guarded meant. I did not cry. I never cried, actually, growing up. I didn't cry about anything. I always just had this real nonchalant attitude, popping lips, rolling eyes, and it was something in me that told me that I had to be that way, because if I was not that way, someone would take advantage of me. As a 36-year-old adult, I am just now learning that I have a lot of things that I personally need to recover from to get better, to move forward with my life. I am a mom who I would never abandon my daughter. I actually try and go above and beyond in my motherhood because I never want her to feel like she's alone and that she doesn't need anyone, or that she doesn't need help when help is needed. Things like that, like she has me, and she has a family that loves her. Because if someone would have said that, hey, you have a family that loves you back then, I would not have even believed. I was like, those people don't care nothing about me. These teachers don't care nothing about me. These therapists don't care nothing about me. But I understand now as an adult, when I was going through therapy as a child, it was questions being asked that nobody had ever asked me before. And I'm still finding out as an adult when certain people ask me questions about me, and I'm like, geez, nobody has ever asked me that before. And I've always been an open book. I've always been able to talk. But let me just say, when you are growing up in trauma, you tell imaginary lies, because it seems like that life that you're talking about is way better than the actual life you're living. I've always had a very vivid imagination. I've always been able to write these stories that just seemed or sound way better than what I was actually living. And I just felt like, at some point in my life, it was like, you just have to really be real about yourself. You have to really be real about what you're going through, and you have to really let people know. And at 36, I'm still trying to figure out how I can be more verbal and more accepting to people helping me, accepting to people loving me and being kind to me, because that is foreign to me. And that's truth. Shaking the weight off of childhood trauma is hard. It is hard because there are things that you bury so deep in your brain, and you don't even want to bring those things up, because it's like now the adult you has to really mourn that child that didn't get to grow up the way you felt like everybody else did, or the way that you would have liked to have grown up. You still really have that little girl inside of you, or that little boy inside of you that's screaming to live, and you're an adult now. So the side effects of my childhood trauma caused me to leave home way earlier than I should have. It caused me to go out and seek love in other families and in a man, and that was horrible. But it also led me to my blessing, which is my daughter. I really feel like when I left home, I hit the ground running, and I knew that I had the skills to take care of me. I knew that I had the skills to survive. I just was really living day by day by day, and it didn't really matter what type of conditions I was living in, as long as I was doing whatever it was that I did not that I wanted to do. I had no idea what it meant to be happy. I had no idea what it meant to be loved. I had no idea of what it meant to be successful. I had no idea of what it meant to follow my dreams. I had no idea what it meant to just feel happy and healthy. I was really just living, man. So not dealing with your childhood trauma will cause a sense of bitterness over your life. And it will cause you to continue to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. It will cause you to just be a really sad person. Even if you want to be happy, it's almost impossible because there's something inside of you wanting immature things, wanting things that you should already have, wanting to feel things that you should have already felt. It will also cause you to stay in relationships, friendships, and things of that nature way entirely too long because you begin to attach yourself to things that feels familiar, and not feeling good is very familiar to someone who has not dealt with childhood trauma. Things that are aggressive and not really meaning you well are the things that you latch onto and hold on to because it is what you know. It's what you know. It's what you're familiar with. And really looking at the root of things, I am learning that therapy is needed. Therapy is needed because when I was going to therapy, when I was a little girl, they would ask me questions that were totally irrelevant to me, and it was like, I don't really need this. I don't understand why I'm here. You have to start building healthy relationships, know what you like, know what you don't like. And although you may not know what to do with that inner child in you, there's a way to make that person grow up. For me, what I do now is I write stories about that child that lives in me, and they are coming out very great. And again, I'm not ashamed of anything because it is the reason why I am so strong today. And when I find myself being guarded, sometimes there's nothing that I can do about it, and sometimes I have to just pray. I do a lot of praying and I do a lot of spiritual reading because it just feeds the soul. And believe me, the little girl that lives in me eats it up because it's what she needs. And I'm also just focused on the things that I want to do, the places that I want to be. It is very hard to have people say I love you and me really believe in that, because it's like a lot of times the people that I've latched onto that say I love you, they didn't mean it. They railroaded me, and I'm not quite sure what that was about, but you better believe that the devil will send people that knows the weakness in you to crush you even more. I've been very disappointed in my lifetime. I've been let down more times than I can actually count. But that person that lives in you that has not been able to mature is that person who's always catering to other people's needs. They are that person that wants to please everybody. Now, some people are just natural givers and pleasers, but they know how to set boundaries and they know how to say no. People with childhood trauma, they don't know how to say no. So I'm learning how to say no. But I'm also learning how to not abandon the people who are actually there for me, who actually love me. And it is hardcore stuff to dig through. And if you are going through healing from childhood trauma and embracing people out of your life that necessarily caused that trauma, that is okay, and I'm praying for you. But it's also a good point to confront the person who caused a lot of your childhood trauma. It is important because they get to know that it was not okay for them to do you that way. Nobody asked to be here. It is a blessing to be here. It's a blessing to breathe every day. And it's also a blessing to have people in your life, big or small, that is going to make sure that you are blessed and that you are loved and you're cared about and you're thought about. Recognizing childhood trauma can be a very lonely place, especially if you have people in your life that doesn't know anything about childhood trauma. They've had a healthy life. I mean, they've been through things, but it doesn't compare. It can be very lonely, and you can distance yourself from those people who have no idea what you're going through on the inside. But sometimes all it takes is a simple conversation, letting them know, hey, this is what I've been through, and they can accept it or they can reject it, but it's totally up to those people. So here's what you do, or here's what I'm doing. I'm confronting the child that was left behind in me. I'm giving her what she needs. I'm giving her closure so that I can mature in my life, so that I could be a better mother and a better provider for my family. Again, I read a lot. I write a lot. I nourish myself with things that are fundamental. I do not, I try not to feed into immaturity. I am slowly building a see-through wall where you could see me and I can see you, and not necessarily saying that you can touch me just yet, but I'm here. And I'm praying for the day where the wall is not see-through. I'm praying for the day where it is no wall there and I'm absolutely touchable and reachable. That is going to take a while, because somebody can hear from me one day and the next day it's years. Like, I literally can go years without talking to people. I can literally go days without talking or being seen. And I am working on that. So yeah, if you are trying to get over childhood trauma, I am praying for you. You are on my mind, my heart, and yeah, I love you. I love you. So yeah, this is episode 8, Conversations Over Smoke. Thank you for watching. Peace.